Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Zorina Pritchett. She is a game creator, small business owner, and an army veteran, and she is going to be an author soon. She has a children's book pending release in 2024. Welcome to the show, Zorina.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form, Zorina. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about if it's never too late to find your purpose at any stage of your life. And you have done this. You are doing great. And it's such a fantastic thing that you are creating games for children even after getting into the army, managing your small business and doing so many things. You are going to be an author soon. So I want to understand all those things in this backdrop. First, to understand, Zorina, exactly, I want to understand from you itself, who is Zorina, because Zorina is going very, very strong. So for the audience, they directly from you, let them understand who is Zorina Pritchett for them.
When I think of Zorina, I honestly think of this amazing person that has been able to overcome many adversities in life, like, the disappointment of being injured in the military, going through a painful divorce, and even the having the opportunity that I found myself having to care for my brother following a stroke, that she's resilient. She is such a resilient person that she always feels like she wants to move forward. She doesn't want to play the victim role, the blaming society or blaming people. She wants to look inside of herself and really walk in her purpose and find impact. Now, I will tell you, Zorina has always been hard on herself, but I think that's my inner drive because I always want to find the best version of myself while I learn to love and respect others. And that, I think, in a nutshell, who she is.
Wonderful, wonderful. And now I want to understand, about the small business. But before that, how did you get into game creation? Even I am trying to understand a bit of game. Forget about creating. I'm thinking of even playing a couple of games online, but I'm not able to do that. So I'm trying to, maybe I learn a bit from you about how did you get into game creation? People struggle with just playing games itself.
Well, I have to begin by telling my the audience that my background is storytelling because I like to write scripts and things like that, or make imaginary stories with my granddaughters. And also in serving veterans, I primarily was a trainer. And so both of those kind of like skill sets can help you create games for us, me, right? But the interesting thing about being a game creator is that it came to me a game in a dream. And so I decided to develop that game and develop a prototype, and I shared it with my family. They liked the game, and my granddaughters encouraged me to share the game with children. So I spent over a year and a half testing. But most importantly, what motivated me to continue down this pathway was I noticed my granddaughters that I observed over the years playing digital games. And that's all they wanted to play was digital games. But when I created my game, Zomatic Shift, I noticed a transformation. They wanted to play the game. And I asked, why? Is it because I'm your Gigi? They said, no, it's because it's fast, it's quick, and it created memories with their parents. And so that motivated me to take my storytelling, my training, to become a game creator. I think about creating games all the time. I do have 2 on the market and 1 pending copyright. But one of the things about being a creator, I found, tell a story. How do you want that game to play? What's the objective? How do you lead the players into meeting that objective? And how do you make it fun, engaging? And guess what? There is an audience always looking for a fun, exciting game. And that is how I became a game creator. And I also label myself as a transformative game creator because I think it's time to start creating these fast games to keep children who are engaged in digital to kind of have a break from that.
Right, right, Zorina. I want to understand your mindset, your motivation after you talked about, injury in when you were in the army. So after that, anyone can just feel very disheartened and just leave things. And as you said, people have a tendency to feel like a victim in everything that happens. They never feel like anything good happens. They think it's there, it's because of them, and anything wrong happens, it's because of God or anyone else. So when that happened, how did you build up things in your mind? How do you were a storyteller, but in terms of how did you want to get that motivation to write your own story? I want to understand that mindset. People normally think, okay, I've already done much in life, and I should just relax. So how did that start? How did that mindset thing work for you? Your motivation, and secondly, in terms of games also, yeah, these games you are talking about transfer, why children's game, why not adults game? What there anything particular in mind? And you are now selling it in, if I understand, it's almost online at Walmart, not a small thing. So how did that
Mhm.
happen? The business part of it, being from an army background, still looking at it from a business perspective. Even very established people find it difficult to sell things, and something like
Mhm.
a game or something in top places. How did you manage to do that? Through you, I want to get that message out to a lot of people, not just people who have attained a certain age, but also to the younger generation of just living life and living life very well.
Well, I want to start by being honest and transparent. When I had my injury from the military, it was my hands, and then it morphed to other disabilities. And at first, I was very scared because you have to use your hands. And so when I started working at my federal job, it was sort of like my safety net because they service veterans, and I was a veteran. And so when I had to face a lot of limitations, I realized that either I'm going to hide and accept this disability and not challenge myself to go beyond my pain and woe is me because my injury happened when I was 19. So I've been dealing with this for a long time. And so once I learned to make up my mind that I'm not going to allow this to stop me, but I had to respect the disability. And that was tough sometimes. And so I think whatever you're going through, whatever limitations you may have, acknowledge it first. If you're afraid, say, I'm afraid. And then also, once you acknowledge what's stopping you from going forward, then you have to come up with a solution. I knew what my limitations were, so I learned how to navigate and compensate. But I knew my drive was I'm going to be successful no matter what, because I've seen family members, I've seen people give up, and I did not want that to be my story. And so I think even now at age 60, going into the game industry where there's less than 5% of people that look like me, it was very challenging because I tried to find a mentor that could work with me, but I could not. And even doing that early on experience, my mentor was able to find someone, and he didn't look at me the whole time. So I felt like, was I entering a space that I shouldn't be in? But again, I looked at, okay, what can I glean from this experience from him? And so I think sometimes when we're pursuing our dreams or whatever it is, it's easy for us to blame others for what we're not accomplishing. But we also have to look inside and say, am I doing all that I can do? And for me, I don't like the word try. And so for those of you that use that word, I want you to think about it. When you say, I'm going to try to show up on this podcast. So it turned on the computer. So I really tried. I just couldn't do it. Try, the word tries, I believe, psychologically sets you up to make an excuse, because all you have to do is take a step and then you can say, oh, I did it, but you didn't do. I think that with me, I always say, I'm going to do it. So I like setting goals and moving forward. And so once I entered this space and realized that I didn't have a lot of game experience, what I had was storytelling and training. And so I took that, and like I said earlier, I developed it, but now it was time to market it and find a place to sell it, right? And so that was complex. But then I thought, you know what? I don't have a lot of resources. I could have just gave up. So I thought I'll go to Walmart. I applied for Walmart. They picked me up. I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked. And because I didn't expect that it would happen that soon. I knew I was going to have to work. And sometimes when you're doing things, you're going to have to work harder maybe than other people. But if you keep your eye, as I say, on the ball, you believe in yourself, that you deserve the best version of yourself and you deserve to be successful, whatever that looks like for you personally. And for me to be on the Walmart platform, it fulfills my purpose in trying to advocate for these children who are watching too many digital games. And I think that standing by, watching them develop this social isolation makes me want to not think about my daily pain that I experience every day, because I want to be impactful to this world. And I think that's part of my legacy. So if you want to leave something behind, whatever that is, try to be the best version of yourself in the mirror. Accept who you are, mitigate what you need to mitigate. Stop giving yourself excuses for not moving forward. Celebrate yourself, no matter what your wins are, and pat yourself on the back and say, you know what? I am going to be successful, and I am the one that's going to define what that looks like. And that's what I did for myself from the time I was 19 to the age I am today.
Wonderful, wonderful. One thing I wanted to understand, in terms of if someone wants to know what makes your games, unique, how and what children can learn from these games, so that people directly know, okay, this is something that they want.
Okay, so my company, ZoChey, my whole thing is I want to develop products that will engage, educate, and entertain children while nurturing their development as they connect with family and friends. And so when I look at my game, Zomatic Shift, I know it sounds different, but it's a derivative of nomadic, because one of the branding part of it is it's a chance style game. So it's a matching game where you match these colors. So that's the educational piece for kids, because we call it the recall. But what's also unique about this game is that in traditional games, you tend to keep your hand that you're dealt the entire time, right? Well, because kids are so used to video games, everything moves very quickly, and there's a lot of moving parts, engagement. So with Zomatic Shift, as you're playing the game, there's cards that say left and right. And when you get those cards, that means every player holding a card will shift their entire hand to the player to the left and to the right. There's cards that says give and take. You give a card to one card to a person to your left or to the right, or you take a card from a person to your left to the right, because the objective of the game is to be the last player holding a card. So what this game does for children is it helps them to, one, color recognition with the matching of the colors. Two, it helps them to follow direction. You'll be amazed how we're not used to following direction. What's our left? What's our right? And you have to follow direction in order to enjoy this game. The other piece that's educational is that if you have a child that's competitive and that does not like to lose, this game will help you to help them to develop emotional regulation. What that means is monitor how they accept defeat, how they play as a team, Following the direction requires teamwork. So those are the elements that parents can incorporate, that learning experience while their child is having a quick fun game, because the playtime is 10 minutes or less. And it's ideal for busy parents and parents wanting their children to take a break from digital games.
Absolutely, absolutely. And why are you making it 10 minutes or less? This is something, even podcasters, we also try to think of, why to make longer podcasts, smaller podcasts will be better because it will keep engagement better. But in your case, is there more or something beyond what we think as podcasters?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. When I was growing up, people like the well-known game Uno and some other games, but they were like taking forever. I wanted to get in there, have some fun, and go do some other stuff. And so I truly believe there is a population out there that does not have a lot of time. Let's just be honest. With the economy the way it is, parents are working very hard to take care of their children, and oftentimes they have a desire to spend time, but they're tired, or maybe they have a job that's consuming so many hours. And so by playing my games being 10 minutes or less and having to be engaging, they can squeeze out, unleash 10 minutes of their time, play this quick game, and then the children, because it's a chance style game, they love beating their parents. It is such a big deal to beat your mom or dad, but they can have fun, and they need that interaction, which a lot of times they're not getting with video games, because most of them are played by themselves. And so I feel like the way the world is digital, everything is moving quickly. We're sort of like living in, I call it this worldwide what I call it microwave. I want it now, give it now. So eventually I feel like games are going to have to meet that segment of the population that just doesn't have the patience to deal with a long game. But my most importantly focus is to help parents who want to play with their kids. They just don't have the time to play an extended game. So I want to provide them with a resource that will help them in a timely manner that fits their schedule and still have the ability to connect with their children, because they deserve that just like any other parent.
Right, absolutely, Zorina. And I want to understand from you. You see, nowadays it's a lot about streaming. A lot of platforms are there, and a lot of people play games. A lot of children follow those gamers and all online, and they spend a lot of time there, a lot of money also many a times. Now in that backdrop, you advocate a lot about advocating for children to have digital balance. I want to understand in this backdrop the way our creator economy is moving, the way a lot of streaming services are making money, a lot of creators are making money, that is fine. But in terms of the children, how should they balance, their digital life? How do you see that? What would you like to tell children as well as parents?
What I would like to tell parents that we all know anything that you do too much of is not good for you. And even though our children are thrust into this digital world, it's really up to the parents to monitor their child. Because if you look at video games or any type of streaming, isn't it like a satisfaction? It's like eating candy. You introduce a child candy and it's like, oh, I love that taste. Well, I think it's the same with some children. When they're exposed early on to these video games, they like that stimulation, and also they're learning through some of these games. But then what do you do when you find, like, for example, I watched a parent tell a 7-year-old, put your digital game down, stop playing your game. And the child said, no, I'm not doing it. And the mother didn't do anything but let the child play. I saw the same child in a room with a bunch of kids, and that child decided to go in the corner and play his digital game. Well, when you see changes in their behavior or mood swings where they don't put their game down, then that lets you know that child is not getting balanced. That child has found their game to be their new playmate. And we can understand, you don't have to be bothered, but it's not healthy. It creates social and emotional problems down the road. Now, what can a parent do? Well, first of all, do not they recommend the Mayo Clinic, the Academy of Pediatrics, and now it has risen to the status of the World Health Organization that we need to mitigate as parents. And so they recommend not to introduce these games as an early age before 2 or whatever. Limit your child to 1 and 2 hours a day. And I call it add an arsenal of multiple games that your child can engage with so they get that balance. Because what you want to do is maintain that social development. Because if we nurture a group of children that develop that social isolation, how do you expect them to build a community in the future and they don't even know how to socialize with their peers? That's the far fetch of it. So if parents say, you know what, you're only going to do, they set the parameters of monitoring early on, be consistent, provide additional games that your child can play with. And also when you're playing with them, talk to them, find out what's going on with them in other aspects of their life. But most importantly, we need to get engaged with our children because there's so many distractions out there, and what we do not want is technology to be raising our children. And right now technology is becoming some parents, I'm going to say some parents, babysitter, and that's not the intention. Your technology, digital, will never replace the amazingness of having loving parents that are supportive and they know what's best for their children. I just want to advocate that and keep them aware that they need to monitor and make sure their child is getting a healthy dose of digital exposure.
Absolutely, absolutely, Zorina. You are the good advocate for children, and that is why you are also now writing a book for children. Help us understand more about your book, so that if I understand, it's getting released in 2024, which is just a few days away from now. But when is your book coming out? What is in that book? And so that people can learn more about what you want to do.
Well, one of the things is in July of 2020, when I retired, I wanted to challenge myself, because usually when you retire, you feel like, I've done everything. I'm going to sit down, prop my legs up, and I'm going to ride this roller coaster out. Well, I'm not like that. I love setting goals. I always want to challenge myself. And so there was a time in my life I felt like, wow, you know how you can read some people's writing and it's like words just leap off the page, man. And I said, you know what? I want to challenge myself and write a story. And so I was comprising this story and I had a concept and I worked with my granddaughter. And so we came up with the title Dancing Teardrops. And what it's about is a grandmother and her daughter. The daughter is spending time with her grandmother, and she was planning a tea party, but it rained that day. And we all know that grandparents are so magical. They love us. They let us get away with everything. So during that day, she tries to really kind of like encourage her that it's going to be okay, but it continued to rain. And so they decide to go outside. And bottom line, they end up playing in the rain, but she realized that her tea party is ruined. So she started crying. And so to cheer her up, her grandmother says, "Oh, you have dancing teardrops." And she just thought that was so cute. So they both started dancing in the rain and having fun. And then the story ends by them going back in the house, and she grabs her teddy bear, Henry, and her dog Kylie, and she says, maybe next time you'll have dancing teardrops too. So in other words, sometimes the storm comes, but then you know what? It's nothing like having love around you that can turn it around and make it sunshine. And I think that's what that grandmother did. And also, you don't hear too many stories about the bonding between grandparents. And that's what makes this story so special. It's that bond between a grandmother and her granddaughter. And so it's coming out in 2024. I don't know the time frame because we're finishing up the illustration, but I'm very excited about it. My publisher thinks it's a really nice story, but most importantly, it challenged me, and I faced the fear of writing it, but I got it through. And that's what I want you to always think. Just face it. Just face it head on. Do what you can do. Because I put that book on the burner and then I shared it with the editor. She read it and she said, why are you holding on to this amazing story? I said, I don't know. She said, it's amazing. And I said, really? She said, yes. And then I said, okay, I'm going to step out and put myself in front of the world so they can read this story. So you got to step out there and do whatever you're trying to do.
Absolutely, do what you are trying to do. What do you want to accomplish in your business and your life? How do you see yourself, from here on? What is it that you seek both in business and life? Zorina, I want to understand. And there is so much to learn about from you, either through your thoughts, through your book that is going to come, through your games. So, what is the best way people can connect with you and also also if they want to do business with you?
Well, I have to tell you, I just started my business in July of 23. And I'm learning so many things. Man, business, I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs. I really do. It's a lot of things that you have to do. What I hope for ZoChey, I really want it to grow because, one, I'm going to be honest, I represent less than 5% in the industry. And I think that we need diversity in every industry so we can reach so many demographics and try to meet their needs and everything. I would love for ZoChey to develop, to create jobs for my community and expose our children to another form of career success, because there may be a child that said, I want to be a game creator. I want to be a videographer. I want to do this and that. But when you don't see anyone that looks like you, it's kind of hard to dream, because then it stays in your mindset, oh, this is just a dream. It'll never happen. But then when they meet you, oh, you're a game creator? Oh, well, then I can do that. And then they can imagine that. And then you can share with them what's needed to go into that pathway. And so I want ZoChey to grow and expand. I want to be a good example for other women that are interested in this industry, as well as men, of course. And then I think that for me personally, I wanted to continue this business to grow, because how I measure my success now, I know we have to be concerned about our numbers. I know that marketing and all of that, but what's more important to me right now, I believe if I can influence parents to understand the messaging and why I'm offering a solution with my game, whether they choose my game or other games, you got to find a solution. And so if I can influence parents in the right way, I know that it's going to be a success. And how people reach me, let me be honest, I am struggling on social media. You would say, how could you be struggling? I am, because being retired, I'm not engaged in a lot of volunteer work since COVID because of my brother being ill. So it kind of restrict me in my exposure. And so if you want to know more about me, my website is www.ZoChey, that's ZoChey.com. It would tell my story, what my game can do, and show images of my game. I do have a third game that's coming out. It's pending copyright. So everything that I want to do is all focused on children. I also hope that ZoChey can expand to services, because I want to put on family conferences where families come together and they have breakout sessions that will teach them how to be better parents, teach kids how to communicate with parents. They have a dress-up session where they come together and fellowship with dinner and build a network where they can reach out to other parents that can be a support system for them. So I have a lot of things I want to do. It's just about money, you guys, finding that avenue of investment, because I'm still new. I don't have the receipts yet, but you know what? I see the vision, I have the commitment. And at 60, I don't know how long I'll be able to do this. I'm hoping I'll be able to do it enough to establish the foundation and then pass it on to some young whippersnapper that's just as passionate and committed to helping our children. That's what I hope.
You will certainly do, a lot of things. Just they say, when begun is half done. You have already given it a very good start, and I'm sure it will be a long, long
I
journey
hope
of a
so.
lot of creation, a lot of things. Even the book has just, the book journey has also just started. You are already a motivational speaker. So there are so many things that you keep on doing. And on this positive note, on this note of, finding purpose, that you are never too old to find your purpose, and you can become what you want to be. It's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Zorin.
Thank you for having me. It's been a wonderful experience. And may I just